Yep. Hi.
Hi,
Facebook's
guys.
telling you to rotate.
We're going to
there
give
we
you
go.
guys a couple
Okay.
seconds to log on. Are we good with that one?
Yes.
I think it doesn't have to be up and down.
people can turn. It says rotate it, but
Okay.
everyone can rotate.
Will you turn this one up and down?
That one. Yeah. Thanks, Matt.
We're going to give you a couple minutes to log on. Last week we kind of rushed into stuff and a lot of people commented that they missed like a big portion of what we said on budget. So we are going to redo that segment because we did have a lot to say. We talked so long, Instagram Live actually cut us off. So we're going to go back to the budget one.
And we'll record it and put it up on YouTube for you guys to watch as well.
Yeah, because as you guys know, especially those of you planning weddings or even just wedding planners in general that have to deal with that subject matter, it's probably the biggest one that we start out with and one of the most important in the whole entire planning process. So we definitely want to address it again. But today we have so anyway, if you're joining us for the first time, we just started doing this last week. We are doing Winedown Wednesday every Wednesday at 3 o'clock Mountain Time. We hope you have your wine. If you joined us last week, you saw our goblets.
We start happy hour at 3 p.m.
Yeah, or tequila or vodka or whatever your preference is.
Yes.
But we just want to talk for 30, 45 minutes every Wednesday about a subject matter that can pertain anything to someone planning a wedding, a potential bride, a current bride, a past bride, a
people
vendor,
in our industry,
people that want to get into wedding planning. I mean, we're going to cover it all. But today we thought that since we covered budgets, which is kind of the first place you start when you're planning a wedding, we thought we would talk about things you need to think about when you pick your wedding venue and your wedding date. A lot of, we've done this for many years and we've ran into a lot of issues with these types of things. And so we just wanted to share with you some things to think about that you may not have thought about in the past. And if you are new to planning your wedding and or getting engaged in the future, we wanted to share with you some things that you may want to think about before you book your wedding venue or date. So I'll start with my personal favorite. Because I just got married in November and this wasn't something that I thought about. So I should have, and as a planner, I definitely should have. But you definitely want to track your cycle and kind of project out and see if you're going to be on your period the weekend of your wedding. Not even from the night of the wedding kind of thing, which is great. However, just in general, you feel like crap. You're 10 pounds bloated.
You're wearing
your dress
a white
is
dress.
tight. You're wearing a white dress. You're having to worry about, So that is not something I thought about. And sure enough, on my wedding day, I woke up with a friend. And I just had to get through it with lots of champagne. But definitely something you want to think about. And obviously, being a woman, you know how to figure it out. So think about that type of stuff. When you start to pick that week or weekend of the month, could there be a potential that, you would be on your period?
Yeah, I would also say that another huge thing that we see is big festivals or conventions coming in, or there are so many music festivals in mountain towns that you can literally book a year and a half in advance and half of the rooms, 3/4 of the rooms are already taken. So making sure you have that room availability, and not just for the wedding night, but a couple nights in advance, because you need to get ready for all of your parties, a couple nights after, because you're not going to want to leave the day after your wedding. So definitely making sure that the room availability is high for all of your guests to book.
Yeah, because if you think about it, you pick a popular weekend in Denver, let's say downtown, and it's, Labor Day weekend. A lot is going on. Taste of Colorado, Rockies games, all kinds of other stuff, in lieu, obviously, of it being a holiday. But a lot of people will just pick random weekends. We had a bride years ago that came to us with her date already chosen, venue already booked. we went on to the calendar for Denver, which you can access, and you can access this for any city. They'll usually have their events posted. And it was Great American Beer Festival, which is like one of the biggest beer festivals in the country, and it was impossible to find hotel rooms because, you know, they book these things a year out. So definitely want to think about that. I think also kind of going into planning a destination wedding. You know, if you're having a wedding in a popular destination, we'll just use Telluride, for instance, in September when it's peak leaves. There are lots of other weddings going on in Telluride that same weekend. Those people are vying for rehearsal dinner spaces and brunch spaces and hotel blocks as well. So if you're going into a town like that that has, you know, limited options, you definitely want to, before you commit to dates and venues, reach out to the hotels, see what their availability is, because they may say, sorry, we have 10 other weddings this weekend, all our rooms are sold. And that would be a complete bummer, and we have run into that again. And, you know, everybody had to spread out and do Airbnbs and that type of thing, but definitely want to see what your accommodations are like.
Yeah. I would also say that it's very important when planning a destination wedding to talk to one of the locals about the weather, because I have so many clients that are like, I want June, like a spring wedding in Colorado. And I'm like, okay, early June, you could literally still have snow on the mountain. It could be muddy. It's not peak season until like at least July. You know what I mean?
Every month in Colorado, just Colorado for instance, you know, June can have snow. July is like monsoon, so rainstorms. August is super hot. September is usually great, but we did a wedding a couple years ago in Vail, early September. The next weekend it snowed. So those are things you definitely want to think about. There are resources online where you could literally research your date for the last 10 years. If it snowed 9 out of 10 times, probably likely it's going to snow. So you need to figure out, like, what kind of bride are you? Will snow or rain or wind ruin your day? If so, definitely take those things into consideration. And of course, you know, have a backup plan, like a lot of backup plans. We do a lot of weddings in the mountains, and probably most of our clients live out of state, and so obviously everyone sees the photos when you take the gondola up and they want those pictures. Other things to think about, they shut those gondolas when it rains or lightning. So we've had clients not even get married on the mountain but want to do their first look up there. They get up there, it starts raining, gondola shuts down, the bride and groom are stuck at the top of the mountain, all the guests are stuck at the bottom.
We literally did a Little Nell wedding, and we postponed the ceremony 2 hours because of weather and because guests couldn't get up.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we're all for like the beautiful scenery and the adventure and stuff, but you definitely need to think about like how important that is to you, and how is it really going to affect, like, at the end of the day, is that one picture, you know, at the top of the mountain really going to, you know, make your entire wedding, or, you know,
or can you take it the day before,
right,
or for the
day
engagement
after.
session?
Yeah, it just causes a lot more stress on you, and when you're stressed, we're stressed, and so that's definitely something to consider as well. I also think it's really important when you're doing a destination wedding to think about, where are your guests coming from? So if you have guests coming from New York and Chicago and LA, you really need to think about, okay, you want to get married in Tennessee. How many flights are these people going to have to take to get to that venue, you know? We have a couple Cabo weddings next year, and we encouraged our clients to try to book months where Southwest was flying direct from Denver to Cabo, because when they're not, obviously it's more complicated for your guests, takes a lot more time to get there, typically more expensive, and you have a higher chance that people, you know, aren't going to show up.
Yeah. I would also say when you're looking at a venue, I feel like we've had clients be like, I want this huge floral installation in the ceiling and da-da-da, and you can't hang anything in the ceiling. And we're like, okay, well, the hotel literally has no ability to do that. So we obviously come up with lots of other options, but I would say our main point of this is to book a planner before you book your venue.
Yeah. And maybe, and typically before you book your date. I mean, we actually had a client last summer that sent a save the date with the wedding date and didn't even have a
The
venue.
Isn't that the craziest thing you've ever heard?
Yeah, don't do that. That makes it really tough, and it was like a really popular month. And so what we had to do is they were at the mercy of what venues were available. So that is not a good idea.
And it was a popular weekend.
Yes, and I think, if you can, definitely, like Amanda said, try to secure a planner first, because they are going to walk you through all of these things to think about when you are picking a venue, when you are picking your date. I think other things that are really important, there are venues that do multiple weddings in a weekend, multiple weddings in a day. Are you going to be okay with running around in your wedding dress taking photos and running into another bride who's also taking hers? Me personally, I wouldn't want that. It just doesn't feel like special. So I think that's something important to ask. How many weddings do you do in a weekend? How many do you do in a day? Because if they do a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and you want to have a Saturday wedding and someone's having a Friday wedding, that Friday wedding is taking up a huge inventory of rooms on that Friday. You're on that Saturday, your guests are most likely going to want to come in on Friday, and there's no place for them to stay. Same thing, when you do a Friday wedding, something you want to think about is you cannot check into a hotel usually until 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay, so you have your wedding at 4:30 or 5. How's your guest supposed to get
from
ready?
the airport. Yeah,
Right.
I would be so annoyed.
Yeah, and that was something, we learned the hard way. We've done a lot of things right and a lot of things wrong, and we've learned through all of them. And sometimes we just say, like, you have to make the mistake to never make the mistake again. And that was something years ago when, we weren't as educated as we are now, that we learned that on a Friday wedding, you really have to think about that. People want to check in and change, and if the room's not available, like, they're in the hotel lobby bathroom, and nobody
Friday
wants to do
evening
that.
traffic too.
Mm-hmm.
The worst time to drive anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something, it's going to take people twice as long to get there. I would also say that when you're looking at a venue, we've had a lot of clients be upset because they felt like their cocktail hour space wasn't totally private, because sometimes there are club guests that are still allowed in the area because they're not going to shut the whole club down, or ranch guests or hotel guests. Or so if you're not doing a full buyout, it's not guaranteed that every space is going to be fully private unless you specifically ask for it or contract it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely something you should ask when you're looking at a place.
Yeah, we have a lot of clients that want to do winter weddings. They're great. We love them. We are huge fans of winter weddings. Ask some of our 2020 clients what their winter wedding room rates are like. Astronomical. I mean, February, March in Vail, forget it. Rooms are like $550 and up. Not necessarily something that an out-of-towner would think of, but it's prime ski season here, spring break, and I don't know about you, but unless it was someone really special, I'm not paying $550 a night to come to your wedding. So then people are forced to stay in Airbnbs. Everybody's spread out. That completely defeats the purpose of a destination wedding, where you want to spend multiple days with these people, see them as much as you can, and now everybody's spread all over the place, which also makes transportation a complete nightmare when you've got people all over. So that's something to think of as well, depending on the location you're going in. Of course, also if you're thinking, let's say Florida, hurricane season. Though we got married in Florida in November, which is on the tail end of hurricane season, and I'm from there, and I took the risk of doing that, but there were definitely some tropical storms coming in, and we were sweating it big time. So, of course, we got wedding insurance, which we definitely would encourage anybody to do. It's so cheap. You can get it through your homeowners or wedsafe.com, and it is so worth it. If the venue burns down or blows away or whatever, definitely worth it. But that's something to think about as well. A lot of times people will do things during those times because they get better pricing, but like, how devastating if you were getting married in the Bahamas, when this recent storm came in, and you couldn't have your wedding. Like, that would just be the worst.
Oh my gosh.
Also, when you're doing like these Friday, Sunday type weddings, and you're doing it at a very popular venue that does multiple weddings in a weekend, you need to think about, okay, you're getting married on Sunday, you want to do a rehearsal with your bridal party on Saturday. Well, there's a wedding on Saturday. So like, when are you supposed to do your rehearsal? If the wedding's at 5 and let's say the florist is getting there at 3, so you'll want to think about that too.
I would say our biggest hurdle too for Sunday weddings is the rehearsal dinner night, because so many places that do rehearsal dinners do weddings as well. So we have a Labor Day client, and it's been very difficult finding a rehearsal dinner spot for Saturday on the weekend of Labor Day weekend, which is like the most popular weekend in the mountains to get married because the weather is almost always perfect.
Yeah, and by the way, while we're talking, if you guys have any questions that you want to ask, we will definitely be looking at those and answering those in just a couple minutes. So if you have any questions at all about anything related, but specifically, picking a date, your wedding venue, whatever. Another thing I would say you need to think about when you're reviewing your venue contract is you need to protect yourself against, let's say, because this really did happen, you show up to your wedding weekend and the whole lobby is under construction. Yeah, that was a fun thing to find out.
Or when there are huge giant dirt piles behind the ceremony that you have to get plowed down the morning of the wedding.
Yeah, so those types of things you want to pre-think, like, hey, are you planning any renovations? Are you planning any hotel room renovations, lobbies, additions, whatever? Ask your venue if they're planning on that type of stuff. If they are, and they know about it, they have to disclose it to you.
Because they will not tell you if you don't ask.
Yeah, and if you don't ask, like, they didn't have to tell you. And I mean, I guess there are special cases where, you sign the contract and then 3 months later something comes up. We dealt with this last year. In Vail, a whole tent was replaced, and when the bride booked the venue, it was one certain type of tent, and then when we went to actually do the wedding, it was another type of tent, and it ended up being fine. But those types of things, you just need to educate yourself. And again, a planner would help you through these things. Is when you're contracting, make sure to cover yourself. What if you guys start to go through a renovation? Because it may not sound like a big deal, but if your guests are arriving to a hotel and 50 rooms are being renovated, like, those people are literally up at like 8 a.m. maybe earlier, like with saws and freaking tools and hammers and stuff.
The hotel restaurant will be closed,
right?
Which can throw things off majorly, and then everyone has to go somewhere else.
Yeah, or the hotel bar, like, that would be total devastation. Yeah. So, and then I'd say another thing when thinking about your date, if you are the type that wants to go on a honeymoon right away, which, telling you from experience, I highly suggest it, because we did not go right away, because I literally came home for 24 hours and then had to go to Cabo for meetings. We're going to take one in a couple of months, but there is a little bit, we didn't really have time to be let down because we went right back to life. But there is a little bit of a letdown. So even if you don't go on a honeymoon right away, I highly suggest a little mini moon somewhere, 3 days, whether it's wherever, just something. Disorder. Yeah, because people get post-traumatic, like, planning.
Post-wedding stress.
Yeah, and then we're like, now what do we do? Like, let's have a baby, let's buy a house. So anyway, back to the honeymoon thing. If you're gonna take a honeymoon, or you want to, you need to do your wedding date around that, because if you want to go to, Bali, and you get married in a certain month and, like, it's horrible weather at that time, or it's cold, or it's rainy, or whatever, clearly you want to think about that stuff too. Where you want to go on your honeymoon as it relates to when you're actually having your wedding date as well.
Yeah. Do we have any questions at the moment?
Yes, a really good question that came up. And you sort of touched on it, but maybe you could elaborate, the both of you, on what would be your preferred order of booking. So, do you book your venue first? Do you book your hotel block? Do you book a band? What are the things that someone needs to consider when planning a wedding, and what order is the most important to the wedding?
So planner first. I was just going to say that. Definitely planner first if you can, because we are the ones that have the relationships with the people that you're going to be reaching out to, whether it's venues, photographers, bands, whatever. You want to rely on not only on our knowledge and our expertise, but you want us to leverage our relationships with the people that we work with. That is, like, key.
Yes.
Then I think we've always told our clients
venue, so you have a date.
Venue and date. And then, I don't know, if you had asked me that question 5 years ago, I would have said, focus on the vendors that can only do one wedding at a time first. Photographer, videographer, officiant. But now, the way Amanda and I have been doing it, we've been changing it just because we've seen the obstacles that we run into. I'd say hotel and rehearsal dinner.
Yeah.
Because
get your spaces locked in because
Mm-hmm.
it's so popular now and people are booking farther and farther in advance.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we can't really book 2020 weddings anymore that don't already have a venue because
there are
it's
no
already
venues
booked
left.
If you want a Saturday.
Yeah.
Which we do
For whatever
also.
reason, and maybe some of our planner friends, if they're watching, they can chime in. 2020 is an interesting year from the standpoint that most of our 2020 clients, we've literally already been working with them for like 6 to 9 months. And I think it's just 2020 in general is like a cool year. There's always like a cool year or a cool date. I think too that's something to consider when picking a date. Go into 2021. Go into each month. Look to see if there's a date that you could go like 1/21/21 or 7/21/21 or there's
You
always
care
like
about
a
how it
cool date.
sounds.
Yeah, like 9/10/11 was a really big date back in 2011.
And I will say, if you're thinking about booking a date, look at the planning period. I mean, we do lots of different, anywhere from like 18 months in advance to 5 months in advance for planning a wedding, even less if we needed to. So I would say that's definitely something to consider. Don't get set on a date if you're looking to get married in 2020 right now.
Like,
Because-
how long do you want to be engaged?
Yeah.
Too. Like, how
And
long
like,
are you engaged?
if you just got engaged, I
Yeah.
would say look at 2021 because in 2020 you're not really gonna.
You're going to be kind of scrambling and you're going to take the leftovers in a way. I mean, there's lots of, venues can only do one wedding at a time. There's a gazillion photographers in Colorado. You would easily find a photographer in 2020 and probably a videographer and most likely a florist, although I've seen a few florists start posting where they're having to give dates away in 2020 because they're booked.
Yeah.
And this is not to discourage anyone that wants to get married in 2020. It's doable. You're just going to have to flex a lot more
Yes.
on what you
But
get.
I will say that you'll get more deals because if people aren't booked, they'll be like, oh, well, at this point, I probably won't be. So it's really a give and take. If you're willing to be more flexible and care more about price, then I would say shorter planning period probably better. If you want what you want and you want to pay for it and you don't care, like longer planning period is best because you will be able to have whatever you want.
For sure. And I think too, with that, we've been working with a bride for a 6 to 9 month period who's getting married in August and has, kind of taken her time making decisions. And so we recently went bridesmaids dress shopping with her, and she wasn't really finding exactly what she wanted. And so I asked the girl, hey, this particular designer that she likes, when does her new line come out? And she said January. And we're like, perfect. If she gets married in August, is there enough time for her to wait till the new line comes out in January, see if there's something she likes better, and then still order her bridesmaids dresses? And she was like, absolutely. So that's another thing to think about too when you're booking. Obviously, the thing that's scariest for us with the shorter planning periods, which we actually love them, because you make a decision and you move on and you don't have time to second guess, change your mind, rethink your dress. You just make a decision and move on. We love that. But something to think about with the shorter planning time frame, our biggest hurdle with that particular client is always getting the dress in time. And we usually skip right over the save the dates and we send the invitations out like 4 months early. Because by the time you pick a save the date, send it out.
With an April client that literally just booked their venue a few
Yeah.
weeks ago.
Yeah. So think about that too. I know sometimes people are like, oh, we don't want to be engaged that long. It's just like so far away. But it does go by fast. Yeah.
Not that I would know. But but I was like, she's engaged.
Yeah.
Only ever engaged.
Yes. Any other questions?
So a follow-up on that one, and this is from Kristen,
Okay.
and it's about hotel blocks.
Hi, Kristen.
How long typically do they let you actually book and pay for rooms? Her wedding's in 10 months, and hotels are saying it's too early to book, so she's running into challenges. So is that when you go through a a planner, or what should she do?
So there are some hotels that will make you wait until the rates are released. Typically, I would say that's about 9 months out is when they release them, if they're the type of hotel that holds it. And then they'll let you have those rooms until about 30 days out. Some hotels will make you do 60 days out, but I'd say 30 days out is probably the average.
Yeah, so I'd say for you, Kristen, luckily if they're not giving you the rooms, they're not giving them to anyone else. So that's a good thing. We typically see that, the most hotels will release a block a year out. I will tell you, Telluride is a different animal, so I'm not sure where you're getting married, but
Beaver Creek tends to be a little different.
tend to hold back, and so we just have to put a little reminder in our calendar, like we are releasing rooms on this date, and boom, we call and we get them all set. Obviously, it makes it hard if you're sending out save the dates, you have a website, you want to tell your guests, go to our website, here's our accommodation information. Well, you can't do that yet. So that makes it a little tough. But I'd ask the hotels, when will you release the rooms? And then at that time, I would contact them and get your block. And just one little note on hotel blocks. I mean, this could be a whole nother subject matter, but when you're booking a hotel block, there's two kinds, courtesy and attrition. A courtesy block, they give you 10 rooms for XYZ amount of days. If you don't book one of them, no skin off their back, boom, they release them 30 days out, you're free and clear. Attrition block, you commit to a certain amount of rooms. It's usually an 80-20 attrition, so you are financially responsible for booking 80% of the rooms you contracted. So if you book 20, you're responsible for 16. So that is a little safer route to go, depending on where you're getting married, but
I would definitely say that it's very dependent on the location of what type of hotel block you do, because Telluride, you need them or else the rooms will be sold out. Cabo, same type of thing. If you're doing a destination wedding like that, you want all of your people at the same place for the most part, so that, that's the whole point of a destination wedding. So an attrition block where you commit to the rooms is very important. Let's say you're doing Denver or even Vail, a courtesy block or like a space available discounted rate where you just get a percentage off and you recommend the rooms. It's a little more doable because you have way more options.
But I'd say with 10 months out, you're thinking along the right lines of trying to get those hotel blocks done right away, because like we learned, it used to be kind of like down the Richter for us, and we were always like, oh, we need the band, the photographer, and the videographer, and now we realize like, no, hotels and rehearsal dinner, because we can get all those other things and then move on to hotel blocks, and then we run into, oh, sorry, we only have 10 rooms left, or oh, sorry, our venue's already booked for rehearsal dinner and we have a hard time finding one. So you're definitely doing it the right way.
And definitely for hotel blocks, if you're doing a destination wedding, look to make sure that they have the Thursday night nights. That is so huge, because you as a bride don't want to be checking in at 4 p.m.
on Friday
when you have a rehearsal and rehearsal dinner. So Thursday night rooms are so important. And we ran into that recently with a venue where they had no Thursday night rooms, but they disclosed that. Our client chose not to book there because how are you going to check in on Friday, do your ceremony rehearsal and do your rehearsal dinner? So that's definitely, a good point to have a good chunk of those booked as well. Yeah. Do we have any others?
So you touched on it at length last week.
Oh, okay.
Budgets.
Yes.
So why don't we do a short recap of maybe the top 3 to 5 things to consider when budgeting for, let's say, a shorter engagement. Let's say someone is doing a 2020, and is the budgeting different for a 10-month planning process versus 18 months?
I don't think it's different. I mean, the price is kind of the price. You might get a few deals and save 500 here, 500 there.
Photographer is where you'd save.
Yeah, you might save a little. I mean, we touched on this last week, and like I said, we are going to redo this one because it was really good and really important and really long. And we have a lot of opinions about budgets. But in general, we just want to preface this by saying we don't want to offend anyone. We realize weddings are very expensive. I just went through this process, so I'm very sensitive as well to how much money it actually takes to do stuff. And so we recognize that. So we're not knocking anybody's budget. We're just telling you, like, professionally, in our opinion, in our market, we've been doing this a long time. We know what stuff costs. We know what vendors cost. And, like, we don't set the pricing for that. We only set ours. I would say, you know, Amanda and I said that we felt like a good, you know, where you could actually feel like you were getting most of what you wanted, starting budget in Colorado. This isn't to say you can't throw a wedding for less, so don't misread what I'm saying. We feel like $85,000 is kind of the starting point. We do budgets all the time. We did one live last week. We plugged in all the numbers. We literally went through each thing and how much stuff costs, how much a dress is, how much is a photographer, and obviously the photographers range. There's $4,500 photographers and $20,000 photographers. Same with planners.
I just looked at a like crazy $650,000 budget, and I looked through all the numbers and I was looking at it, and
like
Heather did it, and I was like,
"You're like, how did you get to this number?" Yeah.
But like it just added up.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It does. And the thing is like, again, we don't set the pricing. All we can do is go to our clients, educate them. We don't like to set expectations that you can do stuff that you can't. We're very upfront with people.
Yeah.
Because we want you to be happy with us. And, you know, it makes our job harder if, you know, we're not being realistic about budgets. But I'd say really when you really start to crunch, like, these are the things I want, nothing crazy and over the top, but, you know, here's this beautiful venue in Larkspur that everybody loves. Okay, well, they charge $11,000 or $13,000. Okay, so right off the bat, there's that. I mean, it really did. I think when we did the kind of lower end budget, we were right around 85.
And it's not to say that we can't plan.
A lot of people plan weddings for less than that, and amazing weddings. But we also talked about this in that segment, and again, we'll cover it again another time. But we are seeing a huge trend towards micro weddings, and basically what people are realizing is, I'm not paying more than $50,000 for this wedding, but I'm only going to invite 50 people. If that's the case, you have way more flexibility. You can do multiple events. You can make things much nicer. It's just when these guests, it's honestly, the budget is all driven by the guest count. And when your guest counts start going into 150, 200, 250, it pulls away from where you can have it, what type of flowers you can have, what type of food and alcohol you can serve. Yeah. When you're dealing with that much smaller number and you're like, we're going to have our most favorite people there and we're going to like splurge on them and really make the guest experience amazing, then 50, you know, you can probably make that work.
Yeah. I just saw a question come in.
Yeah.
What do you think is like the max room rate that a guest will pay?
Ooh, depends on your guests and kind of their economical. I mean, we always suggest doing a few hotel blocks just for that. It's not like here's the $550 or
if
the
it, if it's like a $500 room.
But I say our clients, once rooms start getting into the $350, they start to get a little uncomfortable.
I was gonna say if it's in the $4 or something.
Because the other thing too with destination weddings, a lot of hotels charge resort fees. That's another $50 usually, and that's something if you have an educated planner that can negotiate that resort fee down for you, because it's literally like forgetting the newspaper. Like, who reads the newspaper? Or Wi-Fi or working out.
Or like, I'm going to be at the Four Seasons Vail this weekend, and it's like resort fee, overnight parking, then it's like gratuity, service, like I'm like, before you know it, it's $100 more a night.
Yeah, parking is like $40 a night. So your guests should consider that when they're coming to a destination wedding. Like, it's probably cheaper to like get themselves, you know, some sort of transportation and back versus having a car sit in overnight parking for $40 to $50 a night, which is what a lot of hotels are charging, and they're not even using it.
Yeah. Okay.
Hopefully we answered that okay.
I think so.
No, I think that was good. And again, like you said, you're going to recover it. No, I think what trends coming up that you see, since we're pushing 2020, are there any trends you see happening that have been a change over the last 5 years? You know, end of the decade, what do you see coming forward as far as?
That's a good question. Well, I mentioned one already, micro weddings.
If anyone didn't hear, he was asking about trends coming up for the next decade.
Yeah, what trends are we seeing that are coming up from the next decade that may not have been prevalent 5 years ago? So mine, I'd say, would be the micro wedding concept, which is just smaller, more important people. Let's splurge on them. We're not going for quantity, we're going for quality. And then my other thing I'd say is a lot of our clients are foregoing all formalities. They come to us and they're like, no first dance, no parent dances,
cake cutting.
no bouquet, no garter, none of the like
They want a
mundane
party.
stuff. Yeah, they want to throw a fabulous party. They want really cool, like unique, creative ideas. Not the like, now we do this, and then we eat the dinner, and then we cut the cake, and then
it's everything you've ever done.
yeah. So really, like in a way, kind of like throwing tradition out the door. I've also noticed kind of some of our millennial clients that already live together, have basically built a life together other than being married, are staying together the night before the wedding.
I was gonna say too, one of mine was gonna be getting ready together on wedding morning.
That
I
is
think
cute.
it's so awesome.
But would you see each other?
Yeah, you and Matt saw each other while getting ready.
Well, no, we weren't like not in the like makeup process, but we saw each other that day.
Yeah,
for
but
sure.
like you like eat breakfast, you go on a
Yeah,
walk.
yes,
You
we
wake
hang
up,
out together
you hang out
that
on your
day.
wedding day, so it's not like I can't see him until our first look.
Right.
I
No,
would-
for sure.
yeah. I would
Yeah.
also say sustainability in events is becoming a very big trend because, you know, just in general in life, like recycling, reusing.
I got a
and-
recycling bin on Monday.
Good job.
I'm going green.
Yes. Thanks,
Katie and Mary.
Yeah. So I would say sustainability, like doing no paper invitations or save the dates, doing it all online, or doing like recycled paper or the seeded paper where you can plant it and then it grows a plant.
Or combining vendors. This is a big one. So
Mhm.
like whenever we plan weddings at very popular destinations, so like I'll use this one in particular. We have a wedding at Gurney's in Montauk. Her wedding is on Sunday. There is another bride on Saturday. I asked the hotel to give me the bride's or the venue to give me the bride's contact information. We have been emailing back and forth, and I'm
To
like,
share
hey,
stuff.
what kind of chairs are you renting for Saturday night? Maybe we'll just keep them there and use them. So obviously that helps with the sustainability thing because
So
you
you're
don't
not
have like
driving up
multiple
and
rental
down and up
companies
and
coming
down.
in.
Yeah.
So you can share costs. That's a huge thing we tell our clients on popular, venues. Like, hey, if the girl the night before you is using market lights and you want market lights, like let's just share and just
Split the
leave them
costs.
up one more night.
Yeah.
So yeah, the sustainability, a lot of venues are doing that, and that's a big
Yeah,
one.
or
for
like don't have plastic bottles everywhere, or plastic
Mhm.
cups at every event.
plastic
Use
water
glass.
sure.
Yeah, there's so many. I mean, we could do a whole freaking thing on
Yeah.
being sustainable in events.
Yes, we'll have to
Yeah.
mark that one down.
Yeah. So I would say that is a big trend.
Yeah,
The couples getting ready together, or like being more like, I want this to be
Like together.
our day,
Yeah.
not like,
Yeah.
oh, we have to do it.
Mhm.
This
I'd say
way.
5 years ago, our client was like, "This is my wedding, and I want this." Now they come to us and they're like, "We want our guests to have an amazing experience. They're spending a lot of money to get here. We love them. We want them to know how much we love them. We don't care about this, but we care about spending so much time with them. We want to do all these fun things." So I feel like people are getting
Yeah.
more
If
I think in our age we are getting less connected, and so maybe weddings are making people feel like they want to
wanna get
connect
more
more and
connected.
like
yeah.
get off the phone and actually like talk to each other.
I
Yeah.
would say the other trend, if I had to mention another, would be doing food that's not the typical steak, potatoes, vegetables. Like doing fun food that, I mean, personally, I would rather go eat street tacos and sweet potato fries than have like a steak and mashed potato dinner.
Yeah, for sure.
Personally.
Yeah,
So I would say that's a big trend
yeah,
that I see coming.
yeah. The food thing for sure. And we will definitely do a segment on trends. We can
Yes.
we can do that, but hopefully that was just a couple that we're seeing. I do think destination weddings are growing. I think it's a great way to not have 300 people show up to your wedding because you're getting married in your hometown and you lived there your entire life and you have like 19 cousins and you have to invite everyone. When you do a destination wedding and you go somewhere, you definitely eliminate a good chunk of your guest list right off the bat. And so in a way it kind of forces, a more intimate setting. The people that pay and, make the time to attend are really the ones that you want to be with anyway. So I think, doing the destination wedding thing is big also.
Yeah.
I'll say another one. Videographers. So 5 years ago, I had a handful of couples that would get a videographer. It was kind of like a luxury item. It was like a nice to have, but not a have to have. Almost all our clients get a videographer now, and I will tell you, it's my biggest regret. I did not have a videographer at my wedding because I didn't have a bridal party, and it just wasn't that type of wedding, and it was very intimate, and it was all about having fun, and I just wasn't. But our ceremony went almost an hour.
Oh my God,
and everyone was bawling their eyes out, and I'm like, dang it, I wish I had that on video, and I should have done it. Like, it wasn't a money thing. It was just like, I don't really think we need that. My biggest regret, if you can make it happen, even if it's just like some new guy that got in the industry, get a videographer. You don't have to like blow your entire budget. Although if we told you about a few of our favorite videographers and you watched their videos, you would probably wear a dress from like Macy's just to have, this videographer. But it's so worth it. And people always say, I'll never watch it again. Yes, you will. Because the thing is like, you wouldn't watch it again if it was on VHS or like DVD, but it is online. You can access it at any time. And like, if your grandma's still living and then 10 years from now she's not, you have that video of her. And like, I just think video has to be a huge push.
I actually just had a client that I was talking to, and they're like, well, we did have someone say that like they regretted not having a videographer because a lot of the people in the video died.
Oh, jeez.
They're like, it's kind of depressing, but like,
we
think we need one
right
now.
Or I had this wedding years ago where the whole bridal party did like a little shtick sort of toast, and it was all based off the movie Bridesmaids, like when it first came out, when they went back and forth, and they're like, this one time when we were in Mexico, and she's like, oh, da, da, da. And they did that, and it was so hilarious. And literally the father of the bride was standing next to me when this was going on, and he like hit me with his elbow, and he's like, good job, kid, I'm glad we got the videographer. And I was like, yeah. So I'd say videographers need to be more popular in the next decade, for sure. Especially as much as we all look at videos. Like, it like consumes our lives. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So thank you guys so much for joining us. I can't read this far, so I can't actually see if like we have any other questions that are, that we haven't answered that are pressing.
My venue has no cell service. Is this great or horrible?
Oh,
it's
okay.
Kristen.
Oh,
Hi,
okay.
Kristen.
Your venue has no cell service.
That's Kristen.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well.
So if you want to connect with the people, like Heather was mentioning, is a big trend. It's amazing because no one will be on their phone.
Right.
They'll take videos, pictures, whatever, but they're not going to be scrolling through Instagram the whole time. And if you have a planner that is used to this and vendors that have been prepared for that, I say
not a big deal. Yeah, they shouldn't be on their phone anyway. Although I think there are things we could probably do to fix that. But okay, this is a cool idea. Because everybody's on their phones all the time, you definitely should have a charging station at your wedding. Like, do a really cool, like, beautiful greenery and floral. It was so popular. So many people come up to us and they're like, oh my God, do you have a charger?
They
like,
literally stolen our phone chargers.
Oh my God, so many phone chargers. And of course we do. We have like a million of them, and we give them and we never see them again, and it's fine. But people get like really worked up when their phone's not working. So for some of our weddings, we've actually built an entire charging station. We've had the iPhone cord, the Verizon, the Samsung, the Android, the whatever.
Yeah.
And people loved it. They were like, this is the most amazing thing ever. And they literally used it like the entire time.
Yeah, totally. And I would say as a bride, you're not on your phone.
Yeah.
Ever.
But Kristen, I would say that, sometimes like for new parents, thinking about being away from like a working phone for 5 to 6 hours with no Wi-Fi is probably like, So I'd say, yeah, maybe we want to
we can
like
put
give
it
them
on
a
the
little
website.
warning. Yeah, we should give them a little warning about that.
Yeah, totally.
Just so they're prepared.
Yeah. Okay, let's see if there's any others. Oh, Steve said I love you.
We
Steve
love
Steinhardt.
you too. Love you too, Steve.
Awesome. Okay, I think we got it all covered.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we have any on Facebook either. Elopements are huge millennials. Okay, yes, I would agree. Okay, we're good.
Yeah, elopements are really big. The thing is about the elopement thing, though, is what we found. This is just us. I'd say most of the people that come to us with an elopement haven't necessarily had the type of budget that would warrant hiring a planner. There are times that we turn people away and say, look, we would love to work with you, but like we would take like half your budget. And we don't want to do that because then that means we have to go try to figure out how to plan this whole thing on, XYZ dollars. Yeah, sometimes you don't need it. Like
I will say too, with elopements, I've seen, and I would recommend this if you have less than like 30 people, don't do dancing.
Yeah.
We've seen empty dance floors with elopements with less than 30 people.
Yeah, like think of something else cool. Like there's
do like
definitely
a really cool outdoor movie projector night or something.
Yeah, or a really cool like live ensemble that can come in and like entertain your guests or dance with them or
like
dance
do really
for
cool
them.
games, a photo booth, an arcade, like something besides dancing.
Right. Yeah, because it is a little
It's
awkward.
It's like 10
3 people are on the dance floor.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll do a whole segment on music because music can literally make or break a wedding. That is probably one of our top 3 things that we feel people definitely should put money into. And we will give you all our reasons why, but not today.
Yes.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. We will be back next Wednesday. We have not decided what we're going to talk about yet because we have a massive list. And so if there's anything special that you would like us to cover, no matter the subject, as long as it's wedding related, we would be happy to. So feel free to like write in or DM us on Instagram,
email
or
us.
Facebook.
Yeah.
We will reshoot the budget one. We probably will talk about if we're going to do it live again. I think it's definitely was a good one.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that people missed it.
We might have to section it off because the whole budget is like a lot of items.
But if at the minimum, we'll do a budget one and we'll record it and we'll post it on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and you guys can go back to it. But if you have subjects you want us to cover or anything else in the meantime, if you guys have questions, you can feel free to email us, Heather at table6productions.com, Amanda at table6productions.com. And we will see you next week at 3 o'clock Mountain Time on Wednesday with our newest subject, which we're not sure what it is yet.
We'll let you know.
And hopefully you'll join us with some wine.
Okay. There you go. I was like, how do you end it?
Oh my god,
Steve Steinhardt.
Girl,
So nice.
my ex-fucking boyfriend.
I know, I saw